Today I will tell you a dreadful story that once happened to my soulmate Jack, who is unfortunately not with me either. Frankly speaking, I'm definitely not the sort of ones who firmly believes in mystery or similar to this. Being a person with a cool head and strong mind disputed the fact of believing in some unusual or even mysterious events, the cause of which cannot be explained. I hadn't assumed that something terrible would happen one day, although we're greatly mistaken. These 3 days changed my perception of the whole world and everything around. The 2nd of July, 7 p.m., our last evening. Jack invited me to a luxurious restaurant in order to have a dinner together. Everything was almost perfect. His costume and captivating narratives, service, cuisine, and so on. We were communicating, laughing, and enjoying every minute of our stay. The most picturesque moment of this evening was when the live music turned on. Jack proposed me to I dance a little. Our moments were very charming and filled with true love. And the musicians seemed to be real professionals. The atmosphere was so romantic. The only nuance was in the side and behavior of the waiter, who was serving us. He was trying to put on only one set of appliances, ignoring the fact that not one person but a couple came to the restaurant. At the end of the dinner, Jack was aspiring to tell me something very important for him, but his speech was interrupted by several calls. As it turned out, Jack's boss was the culprit of the essential moment. I insisted on my boyfriend's answer because I thought that there was something rewarding, and were mistaken. Jack was called to have a business trip to Liverpool. He had to leave at 10 p.m. that evening. Finally, the boss told him that Jack should go due to a specific train, the tickets for which were already booked. Of course, I was a bit upset because of such circumstances, but understood that I couldn't change them. Both me and Jack always take all needed responsibilities ties, especially if they're connected with work. In addition to this, Jack promised that after his quick return, we will resume this wonderful time and even organize a marvelous weekend which will be dedicated especially to us. We paid for dinner and left that fascinating restaurant. Jack and I went to a railway station together. When we were already there, it turned out that there were only a few people there. This didn't seem strange to me because the time of departure was rather late. As I said before, Jack had to leave at 10 p.m. Next day in the morning, he should have already been in Liverpool. When the train came to the station, we started bidding farewell. Jack passionately kissed me, said that soon would be back, and went to the train. After my boyfriend's leaving, I called a taxi. The driver was very communicative. He had told me a clock full of various stories about his adventurous life. When I finally got home, I decided to go to the bed. So the waiting didn't seem to me dreadfully long. Although I haven't been able to sleep the whole night, my cell phone was almost burning due to an enormous number of calls from unknown users telling me that the local train was recently stopped by verification stuff. Something wrong happened with the sound, which I couldn't turn off. Those calls seemed to be endless and unstoppable. I became dreadfully nervous and suddenly smashed the phone against the wall, hoping that it was just a dream. My cell phone flew right up to the window, which as a result of the throw was totally broken. In a fit of anger, I shouted. Damn! However, despite these nerves-wracking nightmares, the only thing I wanted to know is that Jack was okay. I ran outside at night in order to find someone who could lend me a phone for calling my boyfriend. It was very dark there. Far away, I saw a man. He was the only one who I met outside at 2:14 a.m. I started running up to him. He was just standing while getting closer. I was surrounded with the idea that I somewhere had already seen him. And again, were mistaken. Good evening, sir. Would you be so kind as to lend your cell phone for a minute? I've lost mine. Yep, surely. The man gave his mobile to me, whispering something to himself quietly. And in a split of a second, I recognized him. That was a waiter from the restaurant who, glancing at me and Jack. Then my thinking was interrupted by his voice. Any problem, madam? I looked at him attentively. No, sir. In a few seconds, Jack was already on the line. Anything happened to you? I didn't want Jack to worry about me, thus hadn't told him about those strange night calls. Just want to know, is everything fine with you? Yeah, surely. Conductor says that tomorrow morning we'll be already in Liverpool. I calmed down. If the conductor says so, hopefully there is no problem with this train and verification stuff. So how's your boyfriend? The man asked wearily. Fine. Everything is fine. Thanks, sir. Good night. Sweet dreams. Suddenly, the man and I heard the sound of the mobile call. It was Jack again. I guess he forgot to add something. The man gave his cell phone to me again. Hi, Jack. Mary. It is my name. The train is not going to Liverpool, but to somewhere else. His voice was frightened and disturbed. Perhaps you will never see me again. I was almost in shock. The band was standing near me. What are you saying, Jack? Is it a joke? Mary, just listen to me. Yesterday at the restaurant, I left one very important thing. I hope you'll find it. The connection was lost. Being in the most dreadful condition, I just returned the cell phone to the man. Ignoring the fact that he works at the restaurant, turned back and went to my place. Of course, I didn't think about the thing, but a person close to my heart. Next morning, the 3rd of July, I obviously got up not early because of that night adventures. Frankly speaking, I thought that I won't even be able to fall asleep, but the lack of energy made me to close my eyes and do that. I woke up due to the alarm clock, which was screeching. Then, in 2 minutes of remembering the latest night events, I looked at the time with a dark shadow of horror and started running around the apartment trying to figure it out what to do. Firstly, I decided to call Jack, but then looked at the broken window and remembered that I didn't have the mobile either. Luckily, I have found a taxi outside. I needed to go to the railway station to get information about that train. The driver pleasurably lended his phone to me. I had called Jack over 15 times, but got no response. His phone was off. A huge panic totally surrounded me. My mind was literally overwhelmed due to various thoughts which led the only logical conclusion. Something happened with the train and all its passengers, including my boyfriend. I thought I'd go crazy before I even go to the station. There was a giant cloud of fear in my eyes. The driver noticed that and started to talk to me. In a fit of anger, fear, and mental disorder, I screamed, "Belay!" The driver fell silent. He didn't talk to me anymore, probably had no words to say. The way seemed to be long and endless. I was always looking at the window, seeing the views, which were almost the same. While having no way, Jack was on my mind. In front of my eyes was a picture of our last date, which we had nearly yesterday. I saw him, spoke to him, danced with him, kissed him. Jack was just near me. It's like within the whole period of our relationships. One of the main people in my life was so close to me. Today is the 3rd of July. I woke up with an issue of unknown where my boyfriend was now and if he was okay at all. Jack always answered my calls, although today, the dreadful day, his mobile was off. Everything looked like an illusion. Just an illusion of reality. At last, the driver got me to the railway station. In 1 minute, I was already at the station building, looking for a ticket office. That day, there were an enormous number of people, hurrying up or behaving just the other way around, waiting for the start of their trip. Due to such a huge quantity of humans, I was also forced to wait for my turn. My hands were covered, legs were not able to keep me. I was crazily nervous, remembering those awful night calls from strangers. Because of them, the only way to get rid of those frauds was to divide my phone. But the most terrible was the last call of Jack, my closest one. I had a feeling that he was right. We wouldn't see each other again. "Mrs., it's your turn." I went to the checkout. "Do you want to buy a ticket? To what city?" I understood that I should say something, but in some seconds I was speechless. Good afternoon. The train to Liverpool went yesterday at 10 p.m. Could you tell me it is already there? My boyfriend was traveling to that train and I'm aspiring to get in touch with him the whole morning, but apparently his phone is off. A worker looked through a database in order to find the needed information. In a few minutes of searching, she glanced at me a bit strangely and answered, "I'm sorry to inform you, but there was no train to Liverpool yesterday." I was in shock. "I'm sorry, could you please check it one more time? Maybe you had confused something." "The information is accurate. There was no train to Liverpool yesterday." The feeling of negation. This could not be possible. I was always free of believing in mysterious and similar sorts of circumstances. And this was really absurd. Probably this train got lost somehow, and the administration don't want to admit their fault. I came to the checkout again. "Could you please call the administration of the station?" The worker answered, "The administration are busy right now." In a split of a second, the feeling of anger got the strongest impact of me. I remembered that the gun was in my pocket. Not long ago, I bought it from my own defense. The fact of being the last in the queue allowed me to carefully pull out the weapon and point it at the worker. I'm not gonna repeat my little request twice. The worker got scared and immediately called the administration of the railway station. We had to wait approximately a minute. When the director came, he attentively listened to me and the worker. Then he had to return in order to check the train schedule according to his documentation. Sorry to inform you, but our worker wasn't mistaken. There was no train to Liverpool yesterday. Silence. I don't strongly remember my next actions, but it seems to me that then I went home. The next day, I finally decided to visit that restaurant. There, Jack and I had spent the last day in the company of each other. I needed to prove that everything not illusion. My head was overshadowed with these words. Yesterday, the restaurant had left one very important thing. I hope you will find it. Occasionally, I remember a waiter who was the witness of our date. Perhaps he knows something about that thing. When I came to the restaurant, the atmosphere in it was almost the same. Magnificent lights, live music, a charming smell of yummy dishes. I could hardly hold back my tears. Then I remembered the main purpose of my visit. Started to look for that waiter. He was just behind me. I hadn't expected that. Good evening, madam. Do you want to ask me about something? Evening, sir. Yes, I was looking for you. By the way, I'm grateful to you for lending me a mobile. Not at all. One day ago, you were serving my boyfriend and I. That night, he left one rewarding thing there. Do you know something about it? The waiter looked at me attentively. Yes, surely. Your boyfriend gave this thing to me. He wanted to surprise you. The man pulled off a roll of paper out his pocket. Here you are. Surprisingly, in that piece of paper was a ring. My heart started a bit faster. A few seconds later, I noticed that something was written there. You're crazy coming up with my existence. Non-existent, Jack.